Hello guys, here we are back again, and this time around we're going to talk about something that probably a lot of people are going to talk about today. You're probably actually going to see a ton of YouTube videos on it, but again, what's funny to me is how everybody says Nintendo's done, but when Nintendo does something, everybody's got to talk about it. But in this case, this goes back to my nostalgia, my childhood, right before the Super Nintendo and all that stuff was the 1990 Nintendo World Championships. And here we are. Nintendo announces the 2015 Nintendo World Championships. It's been 25 years since they've done it. Now, it's not an event I think they can pull off every year, because then it might lose its nostalgia, but no one else is doing it, so maybe they can. It just depends on what games they put in the championship, right? Now, the other question I've had immediately I heard the announcement was, so is this going to be like a special Wii U disc, kind of like the other World Championship carts of the NES? And obviously, if that's the case, or if the people who compete get to have copies of it, obviously, when they get to the finals, then there goes, everybody's going to want that. The price of things going to be insane, because gamers today will complain about it, but they all want the rare thing, and they're willing to pay for it, and they're willing to raise the price. That's just the way it is in our market with gamers today. They complain about it, but yet they still want the most expensive thing. But anyway, and because it'll be a limited thing, I mean, if you're a Nintendo fan, you're going to want it, and there are a lot of them out there. Anyway, so basically what's going to happen is May 30th, Best Buy stores will have tournaments, and then they'll have regional tournaments, and then June 14th, with the people win all the other, basically left in the tournament, and whoever Nintendo picks, other possible entrants, it'll happen June 14th, and whoever wins will be the Nintendo World Champion 2015. Now, why does Nintendo World Championships mean so much to me? That's always a question people are going to ask you when you talk about nostalgia, because a lot of people claim nostalgia on things they have never knew existed, but they were around at the time. Well, I remember reading Nintendo Power back then, completely in all Nintendo mode. Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Beginning of Super Nintendo, I was all Nintendo. By the end of it, I was into Nintendo and Sega, because I had both the Super Nintendo and the Genesis by the time that generation was over. But in the NES days, I was pure Nintendo, going to Super Nintendo, pure Nintendo, didn't even pay attention to any of the, if there were any other game companies, didn't care. Nintendo made the games I wanted to play, and that was it. My video store had rented only Nintendo games, and I was all in, playing the next new Nintendo game, could care less what was out there. Even though I knew the Sega Master System existed, I considered it, it's got to be a B-rated system. Nintendo makes these great games, even though years later the Sega Master System was a good system. So when Nintendo announced the Nintendo World Championships, it was a big deal. Nothing like this had ever happened before. And of course, it's weird when you talk about the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of events that just never had happened before in that time, and this was one of them. As a gamer, I was like, holy cow, World Championship. Wouldn't it be cool? Every year we have a new championship. Now that didn't happen, of course. But of course, we all know what happened out of the 1990 World Championships. We all know about the Nintendo World Championship carts, the insane prices for those things. Insane, the fact that they're just little clippets of games you probably already own in your collection if you have an NES. But yet, because they're on this little cartridge in the event, they're worth an insane amount of money. Now this time, obviously, Nintendo probably going to have some kind of special disc for Wii U's, I imagine. And we'll have to see how that all plays out, how many copies will be out there and all the other stuff. But this will be a big deal. Kind of like the Smash Brothers tournament was a big deal last year, except this has more nostalgia towards it, because they have happened in the past. Again, that was such a big event. It solidified to me as Nintendo was king. That Nintendo was a global force. That Nintendo was not just a drop in the bucket, just a simple fad that would go away. The fact that they're holding their own World Championships and such a big deal was made about, just like, blew my mind. Atari never did nothing like that. At least I wasn't aware of it at the time. And so here we are. We got the new one. What's cool about the new one for me is the fact my 8-year-old son and me can sit down and watch the championships, experience it. Something nostalgic from my childhood that I can share with him today, which is why Nintendo's appeal is for all the people who kind of hate on Nintendo, is as a parent being able to show your kid the games you played, the experiences you had, giving them new experiences of the company you grew up with. Like, my son is really into Splatoon. I say it wrong, he always teases me. That'll be a game we experience. Mario Kart 8, you know, playing that with him. And now, you know, again, this year, sitting down and watching Nintendo at E3 like we did last year, those are experiences, like things you grew up with, of a company I have fond memories that most gamers don't talk about. They talk about hating on Nintendo, or they love Nintendo, but Nintendo's not what they used to be. That's all subjective. The truth is, Nintendo is a financially in a fine spot, despite the fact the system hasn't sold the way you are. Now, of course, are they considered the market leader? Absolutely not when it comes to games and console sales. When it comes to first-party titles, are they the leader? Of course they are. No one can touch Nintendo. We can all bicker about how we think Nintendo should bring out more first-party titles quicker, which is true. But when Nintendo announces a Star Fox or announces a Zelda, we're all in. We're all going nuts. So, Nintendo is, again, a company that always means a lot to me, and I'm glad to pass it on to my kid. I don't want him just to know the Microsoft/Sony version of gaming, because there are good things and a lot of bad things to do with that version of gaming. That it's almost disposable gaming today, you know, to me, where, hey, you buy the new game, you beat it, you move on to the next one, and it's almost disposable because you really don't go back and play those games when you're done. And it's not Sony and Microsoft's fault. It's third parties and them wanting to make money, and just the environment we're in today in a society where we have to hurry up to the next thing, right? But this is cool news. E3 is cool. I mean, if you watch that Nintendo, I'll link to the article below, and in there there's the trailer. If you see that Nintendo short for Nintendo World Championships, it's awesome, because they really pull at your Nintendo heartstrings in that video. When Reggie's training, and you see him training with 2 GameCube systems lifting him up, and he's lifting up 2 Super Scope 6s, and, you know, he's playing Punch-Out on the Wii, and he's playing with the Nintendo pad, and, you know, of course, running it eventually hits the pad with his hands, like we all did, to cheat at times. It just pulls at all the heartstrings that make you go, man, and people trying to decipher, does that mean we're getting a new Punch-Out? Does that mean this, or this? Who knows? I mean, to me, it's cool that Nintendo's going back to the past. Again, Nintendo's made a lot of changes in the year and a half. I said that in my last video, that people aren't recognizing, and some of it takes time. If Nintendo were to bring out a real light gun for, like, the Wii U, that'd be cool. We haven't had one in a long time, but we have to have good games to go with it, right? I would love to see Pokemon Snap too. But again, with E3 hype, we start thinking about what games do we want Nintendo to show. So my question to you is, are you excited about the Nintendo World Championships 2015? Are you going to go to a Best Buy store at May 30th and participate? I most definitely am thinking about it. If it's in my local Best Buy, I most definitely may think about it, depending on what time it is. Maybe I will go do it for fun. What do you hope Nintendo shows at E3? Again, I would love a new F-Zero, but because they put 2 tracks to F-Zero in Mario Kart 8, I have a feeling we're not going to see an F-Zero. That all the tracks will eventually be in Mario Kart 8. I hope we get more DLC for Mario Kart 8. Absolutely love that game. I hope, again, Star Fox comes out this year and is shown. I hope they could show more Zelda, even though it's not coming out this year, obviously. I would love Nintendo to do the smart thing. Now, obviously, with the Konami situation, I've kind of lost faith in this, the thing I was hoping would happen. But to me, Nintendo going back and bringing the franchises that made the Nintendo and Super Nintendo popular. The Contras. We all would love to see another Contra. We all would love to see, Capcom, we all would say Mega Man, but we know that's not going to happen, unfortunately. You know, the classic NES and Super Nintendo games, series that we loved, you know, Castlevania, the Metroidvania style, as they call it. But that's probably, again, things that aren't going to happen. I mean, we could go down the list. I'd love to see new Star Tropics, because I love that series from Nintendo. But again, what games are you looking forward to? What are you hoping Nintendo announces? Like, something that you wish they would, but that you know they're not going to. I mean, it's just announced today that, again, the Dragon Quest games are coming out for the 3DS in Japan. Will that come out over here? We'll have to wait to see. Anyway, I've babbled along for 9 minutes. What do you think about all this stuff? Nintendo World Championships, E3, all this stuff. I'd love to hear your comments down below. And I will make another video soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Later.